Alright, we are back somewhat. Where are we? I don't even know if this one is working. Yeah, certainly it's not. There's that. Oh, guess what, guys? It would be a good idea if I plug the stuff in, huh? Guys and gals, let's find out. And we actually got it. If it freezes, I don't know. I can't help that if it freezes. Let's put the autofocus on, leave manual. Alright, I think we can do it. Here's what we got going on today. We've got another one. This could be interesting. So let's stash the side cover away, and if we go by the paperwork, it's not turning on, we need to diagnose it. So this could be a problem that a lot of people could face with a desktop computer. Dirt is one thing that will kill it. Heat is another. When they get extremely dirty, the heat will build up more and more. Heat and dirt, both not good for computers. So let's go ahead and get this on the bench. As you can see, let's go to a slightly different cam. We got quite a bit of dirt built up here in the heatsink itself. The power supply, every fan in the system, and I believe there's a fan up front here that pulls air in from the bottom. Yes, it is, and it's just caked with crud also. However, let's go ahead. We're going to get this set up on our bench. Alright, I unplugged one. We should still have access with station 2. Alright. Pretty sure if you're working on computers, you can hook one up. For anybody that can't or may not have, I mean, it's just common sense. Make the plugs fit the holes. Sense isn't always common though. So we got our Ethernet, our sound, not that we're going to need it. We are adapting DVI on the graphics card over to VGA. So we'll do that there. And then we got to plug in our mouse and keyboard over PS2, which is an old connection. Most are USB these days. And then finally, our power. Once all completely connected, there's a few steps we're going to try and take to see if this will turn on. First is check your power supply. See if you have a switch, if it didn't get bumped. If it's flipped to the side with the circle, that's a closed loop. No power is getting through. The power switch will do nothing. So if we flip over, our power switch will do nothing. Going back, we're going to flip it to the straight line instead of the circle. That will let power go through the power supply. Back over to this side. And we still have nothing. As you can see, I hit the switch no fan spin, nothing on the monitors. And that is the listed problem with this, is oop, that was not good. That's much better. Everything else is going to be bright, but you'll be able to see a little better inside of the PC. Okay, so getting away from that, our power is not working at all. One of the first things you can check, there's much easier stuff than checking your power switch. And power switches failing are not that common, but when you run into a computer that's near impossible to diagnose, if you have an old tower, can get an old tower, even go to Radio Shack and build yourself something kind of like this. Just get a push button switch. You don't want to push on and then push. You don't want a push to turn it on and then push to turn it off. I guess that was out of focus. Push on and then push again off, which would be a switch kind of like this. You don't want to push on and then push off. You want one where you hit it and it triggers the switch and instantly springs back out. It's not a locking switch. That's what you would want. So we're going to get one of these. Let's go up here to this cam. First thing we can do, we know we don't have any power, so let's switch our power supply off. We'll unplug it, go around and hit our power switch to discharge any power that might be in the system if we're going to be messing with it. The rest of this we can leave hooked up. Another good one to unplug is your monitor cable. That will take, you can get power coming from your monitor because it's plugged in and feeding power into the system. In this case, we've got a bit of a stretch to get to this power switch, so we're going to wait on this to check it later. Right now, when a system don't power on, one of the first things that we can try, and I've used these before multiple times, I don't like them. This one has a light shorted out. There it is. Something better you can get, find a friend that also works on computers. Get yourself a secondary known good power supply. You can use the power supply tester, and you just basically, the few pins that you're going to want to hook up are your 20 or 20 plus 4 pin. Upside down, flip it over the other way and it should work. So yeah, you would do your 20 pin or 20 plus 4. Alright, I'm about to look real dumb here if this don't work. Ah, okay, so my 4 pin was on the wrong side again. So to test the power supply, you need your 20 or 20 plus 4. Go ahead and plug in one or both of your 12 volt rails. If you have it, which is an old connector, this is what's going to run your floppy drive, like a floppy disk drive. You don't really need to test for that these days. Nothing in the system really runs off those. If you have a Molex connector, you can go ahead and plug that in. And then moving on to a SATA connector. That would go here, and then once you put some power to, boy, this is gonna get real sketchy. We got all kind of cables we don't want to unplug over there. Once you would put power to the power supply and turn the switch on, you should get a fan spinning. And believe it or not, I think that's the one I unplugged. Maybe not. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, so that would be 3, that's 4. You know what, we might have 3. Now let's just go here. Once you connect your power cable. In this power supply, fan not spinning, but it is on. So that's not a known working supply. It looks like we're actually missing, we could be missing a 5-volt rail and a 3-volt. So aside from that, it's one way is you can use a power tester to test your power supply. I don't really like these because I've had power supplies that tested good, and that power supply, when tested good, would not boot a machine, and it ended up the power supply was bad. So these are good, but I don't trust them all the time. So what we will do is get, hopefully, a known working power supply this trip around. What is that? Yeah. Where is it? There it is. Is it? No, it's not the Dell. That was bad. Oh, what a classic. We don't want that, do we? If we have to, we'll crack a new one. You know what? Maybe we'll crack a new one just cause. Just to be doubly sure. So we got a single rail. This is a 500 watt. This power supply works. The fan is out of it. So that's the problem with that one for right now. Let's get into a new one just for testing's sake. Alright, here we go. Oh wow, okay. And this should actually be tested anyhow. Again, back to opinion. Alright. Do we need the tester back out to get the fan spinning? No, believe me. If you have a power supply tester and you plug it in and the fan is functioning, when you do plug it in and have power on, the fan will spin. Alright, so we're going to unplug our 12-volt rail from the system here. We will also, we're going to unplug our GPU. Actually, you know what? Do we have a GPU? Yeah, we do. We have a, is that the 12-volt rail? Yes, it is. It splits in two. Okay. And we have some Molex so we could power the graphics card if need be. Gonna unplug the customer's hard drive, the power from the ROM, and then finally we'll get to our main power connector. This is the first thing I usually try, is to power up just the base system, motherboard, RAM, graphics card if it has it. We're not going to worry about hard drive and the optical drive. Some systems or some power supplies, you do not have a long enough power lead to reach everything, so you will have to pull one power supply out to put the other in its place. In this case, where it's up top, okay. So we've got a 12-volt rail plugged in, our main power, and then let's go from Molex over to what are we looking here for here? 6-pin, preferably a 6-pin. What is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? And by all means, if you don't have one of these cables, let's pull the graphics card out. If you don't have a 6-pin on your graphics card, we've got a Molex to 6-pin here. So we'll go ahead and we will go ahead and make good use of our 6-pin power connector for this test. Let's get a power cable, switch our power supply, make sure it's in the off position. Keep any and all cables clear from your fans. You don't want to get it jammed up. How quick will a fan burn up? Not too quick, but you never know. We'll switch it on. So we know we have the 12-volt rail, the 20 plus 4-pin power connector in the graphics card. We don't need hard drive, optical ROM. Let's go ahead and try the switch. And we've got nothing. And still nothing. Alright, let's get this new power supply out of here and back to the box. This should be our new tester. But we usually use old ones. I need to get a fan in our old tester. That one may have seen its day. It was whining. Pretty sure it was just the fan though. So let's bundle this back up, take off the adapter wire. Who's out there? Alright, so you verified, you borrowed a power supply, you bought one, and that's not it. That's not the culprit. Where do you go? Where do you go from there after the power supply? Test fails. What's the next logical step? Well, we gotta hook our old one back up. I'm pretty sure the one internally in that system is good. I can't prove it, but I'm fairly certain it's alright. Power supply, some may say, is the extreme first step, but it's a logical step whenever you have no power to a system. Let's get our base components plugged back in, our 20 plus 4 pin, our 12-volt rail. Man, we're knocking all kinds of dust loose on this thing. And before you go touching some stuff, always try to touch and ground yourself out on metal on the chassis. Some people do have something to say about the electric ESD wrist straps. Alright, so we got some fan spin there. Cool. We got some loose. So new power supply didn't work. And did we just jar something loose? Possibly? Maybe? We don't know. Let's find out. We're going to get this output to our monitor. Let's plug this GPU back in. Hey, maybe there was something just not plugged in properly. Something bumped. RAM. Power it back on. So the fans want to spin, but they don't. Probably bearings going out due to so much dirt buildup and just wear and tear on the fan, the motor itself. We are getting Let's look here. Let's turn our TV on. That CPU is not going to get cold with a fan like that, but we're going to see if we have a post. Detect HDMI signal. Receiving data. Let's check our source. Okay, we are on HDMI 2 from our KVM. I'm guessing no. Retrieving data. Probably no data. I'm going to wait here a moment. HDMI 2. HDMI, no audio. Alright, so you can see this thing has life, and then it has no life when we have the switch. Over here on the back of our power supply, it's on the circle. We'll switch it back up to the line, hit our switch out front, and yet again, no life. Let's go back. Can we get the... Yeah, we can get most of it in there. Okay, great. Power it down, pull the monitor, touch the metal, you ground it out. What we're going to do next is we need to remove one of the sticks of RAM, repeat our test. Alright, we had life, now no life. Cycle the power on and off with the switch on the power supply, still no life. Okay, monitor out, power cable out, position, build up by pressing your power button. We're going to remove the second stick of RAM. Let's put the second one back in the slot that it had come out of. Alright, there's that. Monitor. Power supply. Switch on, and we got spin up. Let's see if we get a signal. We have fan spin. We have no signal out to the TV though. Not support. What can we do about that? If it doesn't support our signal, it doesn't support it. Not support. Well, what do we want to do here? I think we've got one right here. Alright, let's pull our DVI cord, grab this quick, we'll grab our power cable for said monitor. This one's fighting us, it's going to be stubborn. That's why I thought it might be an interesting video. The no power ones can sometimes be baffling or not make sense. You can't really pin them down. It can be tricky. We're going to go ahead and plug in our DVI cable for our monitor. Okay. Let's see what happens here. Back you up a little bit. We still have no signal, even if we turn the monitor off and turn it back on. We get our little Acer logo. No signal. Let's plug in to the other DVI port just to be safe. No signal. Goes from blue right back to orange. Just in case, we'll switch it off. And let's see if powering it back on will do anything for us. Alright, that you need to do a little jump start on that fan there. Okay, nothing. Let's take it one step further. Because we're using a graphics card, power system down, unplug the power cable, monitor, discharge any power. Let's pull this graphics card. We tried swapping the RAM around. That didn't work. Another thing to do is, if you have it, go with, oh boy, go with a known good stick of RAM. So we could try that, but I'm going to skip over that for now, for all today's testing, and we'll go back so you can kind of see the monitor. We do have a secondary stick of RAM. We've got these ones, which I believe are good, both of them. That's my thoughts. Okay, coffee. Excuse me. Oh, what a sneeze. Whew, okay. We'll unplug the rest of our cables. We are going to remove our graphics card. Set that out of the way. Now we have no graphics card. We're going to have to go to the onboard video, which we'll switch over quick just for a moment. We're going to go to the onboard video now versus the one we were doing on graphics card, which we can eliminate an adapter. Anytime using any of these things, the more variables, the more adapters, the more components, the more things it can be. So I don't think we have a way to adapt. No, we do not. We can't go VGA to HDMI. We don't have that cable, so we have to get this monitor out of the way and go back to our big one temporarily. Let's set this out of our way. Alright, let's get these hooked up. Onboard graphics. Ethernet speaker, not necessary, but I always plug it in to avoid letting it just fly loose. And our mouse and keyboard. Keyboard and mouse. Plug in, power supply on, and we got more fan spin. But guess what? Guess what we didn't do? We've got all the RAM pulled from the system, so it does get confusing when you're pulling, plugging, unplugging multiple components. Like it really can get confusing. So I'm trying to rush through this in a hurry to avoid doing this for hours and hours. And we'll see if we can lead ourselves to what the conclusion for this case is. I'm pretty sure I know already. I haven't checked ahead of time. But I have a sneaking suspicion of what it is, which will make for an interesting thing to do tomorrow. Let's get our onboard video plugged back in. I think they only plug one way, and generally they do, unless you got a bunch of bent pins. In that case, the stuff don't work. Power's on, fans are spinning. Yeah, nope, nothing. No display, no output, no such luck. Alright. Let's move our RAM slot from one slot over one port, and then after this we're going to try a known good stick of RAM, DDR3. And go back to the monitor. We do have power. Not enough power though. And nothing on the display at the KVM. Whew, that's the time. Okay, yeah, we're gonna wrap this up soon enough here. So we've eliminated all the components except for we got RAM, CPU, and motherboard. We're gonna solve the RAM issue right now. So let's pull our stick of RAM. Is that, yeah. Alright, DDR3. Did I put you in there wrong? Or are you just... Oh, it's not DDR3. It is DDR2. Would have to be, correct? Correct. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we need some DDR2. In this case, let's get our value stick of DDR2. 1 gigabyte. Nothing spectacular. Alright. Like a glove. Does not remind me of fitting though. But we'll go with it. It did click in on both sides. So let's check this final stick of RAM and then on to the next project. As soon as we turn the power supply on, we get the same behavior from the fans. This one's dead. If you give it a spin at the right time, it will keep turning for a little while, so will our back fan. Hitting our switch, we've got nothing on display. Power it down. Okay, gonna remove all the cords from the back. Power supply is switched off. This is where you may not have parts laying around. So if you know somebody that has stuff laying around like this, go ahead and do it. This is just another part of the troubleshooting. We're going to go ahead and unmount our CPU cooler. Ooh, most of that thermal paste is there. What do we got? This is an AMD, looks like a Phenom. Let's see if we can find a similar socketed CPU. Indeed, I think we've got one. Can't verify it yet. We'll go ahead and find out. We'll get out of there. Alright, how many fudged pins do we got? None. And maybe one. Maybe one. Alright, this should be the same socket. It is pinned out the same as that AMD Phenom CPU. It's a socket AM2, AM3 maybe? I don't know. I think it's AM2 plus. Somewhere in that neighborhood. This isn't going to be a permanent setup if this works. We're just going to go ahead and... Whoa, look at that grit. Wow. We're going to go ahead and set this on here. For now, we have the fan plugged in, so the system will read. that there is indeed a fan. And that's just the important part, that it reads it, and if you don't have the CPU locked in with the whatever locking mechanism on the socket, that's where you would need to actually press down on it. But we have it locked in. We shouldn't need to put any down pressure on it. The pins are locked in and in place. Again, we have a compatible processor, same socket, same specs. It should potentially boot this system. And we have nothing on the screen of the KVM. It's not lit up, not in the least bit. We've got the big not support there, and not support means there's no actual signal. That's what that TV has to say about it whenever there's nothing going on. Eventually the signal will drop. Let's see if we can get it. No signal? Nope, just stays at not support. Is that there? We've narrowed down the problem. Now this customer, when he called, he called twice initially. His brother called and he called, I believe. And the problem was, yeah, right. Excuse me. Let's go over here and flip on the autofocus. Sure. We've got our focus mode. This should work, hopefully. Okay, so and tell me it's not. Nope, really it's not. Okay. Tracking, sure. Track it. Okay, so not turning on, diagnose. His first initial suspicion was that it was the power supply. Exit, let's click back over to manual. Ah, there it is. There's autofocus. Boom, we're back in focus. So yeah, not turning on, diagnose. Power supply was what he swore up and down. His brother was convinced it was also the power supply. With this short live stream, we determined it's not the power supply. The power supply will power the computer. It is not the RAM. It's not known working RAM. We've had a known working power supply that did not fail to kick it on. We've even traded out, at this point, the processor. So we need to put the customer's processor back in just to have it with the hardware. But the actual problem is not the processor, not the, it's none of the components. It's what everything plugs into, the motherboard in this case. Motherboards do go bad, more commonly than processors, more commonly than RAM, I would say. Again, strictly opinion. But there, we've diagnosed that one out. We're going to go ahead and try and lock this CPU cooler back on just to hold everything in place. This mounting system for the AM2, AM2 Plus, or AM2, AM3, AM3 Plus, all those sockets, I am not a fan of it at all. Okay, where do we get more reach out of that? That way or that way? No way. Got it. Okay. I just slipped right back off. Fine. Okay. Locked in. This is going to lead up to tomorrow's video. We have a graphics card we could put. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. It was out of the picture. Out of sight, out of mind. I didn't see it, and we never even got to the power switch. We did not need to go the power switch route because the computer would, if it was bad, the computer would either not turn on at all or it would turn on and then turn back off. That's the two symptoms of a bad power switch that I've seen exhibited. We could go that route, but I'm not calling it that. It's the motherboard in this case. Again, I could be wrong. I don't believe so. We did the trial by fire and got rid of basically everything except the motherboard. Tomorrow's live stream is going to be, let's go ahead and put this screw back in wherever it went and install the customer's RAM so we have all the components. We're going to check. We don't have a compatible board, but we have to give this person a call and see how they want to proceed with it. And let's set this up here and then we can throw, we'll make this our little tabletop for the time being, and then we'll set the trusty RC charger up there. And this is the plan if they want to go for it. This is pulled a good board from a working system from a trade-in. What is it? An Asus F2A 55-M LE. Not a bad board. We got the backplate, so we're halfway successful there. Backplate needs a little bit of a cleaning. Maybe the motherboard. Go over it with alcohol and a brush. It is fairly clean. It was in a system that had a tiny bit of dust, but not a lot. Verified working. However, I don't think it takes DDR2. I'm pretty sure it's a DDR3 board because it's a AMD A4 series processor, and in that case, that something along the lines of DDR3. Yes, for this board. DDR3. So, tune in tomorrow. You can see this go into his computer. The red the red really clashes with the blue of look at that scheme. Look at that. Try and set this here easy. Look how bad that clashes. That red memory with the blue in whatever brown theme of the motherboard. Whatever. Hey, if the wires aren't sleeved with some kind of mesh, then it all clashes, so. Alright, what do we need to do? We need to throw RAM back in the system. We want to keep all his original parts together. The graphics card is not, it's not great, it's not bad. It's a MSI GTX 550, I believe. 550 Ti, was that a graphics card? I don't remember. It's been a while since 500 series was out. If it went before 5, 6. Okay, and there we are. Let's get this disconnected get it ready ahead of time for tomorrow. Do that. Put this back on and clean up, and we are going home. We have a screw. Just one screw will work there. We're actually going to swap out the one for the graphics card. It is wrong. This is a DVD ROM screw. I think it threaded out the steel. It did, so we're going to go ahead and put this in the ROM just to retain it. We don't want it sliding around. Not sure if it will or not, but we'll keep it in place for the time being, and we're going to put a screw with the right threads back here to hold the GPU. This is how the system came in, with a lot of screws missing. I think it had maybe one screw on this back plate, or the side panel. Not super cared for, but virtually a dead system with the motherboard. The motherboard is, it's kind of the not the heart of everything, but the skeleton. Without your skeleton, all your organs and everything else, muscles, tendons, nerves, veins, all that's no good without your skeleton. You'd be a blob, not going to function. So, indeed, no motherboard is a problem. That is going to be it for this evening. We'll stand this up and have it here ready to go for tomorrow. Where do we go? We got to tear that camera down. We can go to the non-green screen and put this monitor back over with this system. Yeah, I can shut this down while that's on. We're not on that feed, right? Correct. Good news. Alright, so there's no 100% surefire path to checking and diagnosing a desktop tower that has no power. Usually you will get to a solution long before we did, or not a solution to what the problem is, and then you'll know what your solution will be. However, a motherboard, yeah, those problems, they're tough ones, because if you don't have a compatible, even if you do have a compatible motherboard, if you don't have an identical one, that's where you're going to, you don't have to 100% reinstall Windows. But seeing how every device in your computer is going to be running from if it's a non-identical motherboard, it's going to have completely different drivers for the devices. I mean, unless it happens to have, which it wouldn't, you know, it might have some of the same devices, but yeah, that's where you run into backing up the data, reloading Windows, whole nother situation. Takes some time, fun to do, a lot of off keyboard time. You don't have to be present to do it. But let's hang out for a few more while we clean up this camera. I was really hoping it wasn't the motherboard too. I mean, by the way, that would have been, I think, a little cooler if it wasn't the motherboard, but yeah, you can't always get what you want. It's more work, more fun. No, I don't really call any of it work. It's just more fun. It takes more time to do, which I don't mind. This is all awesome to me. Alright, camera, you have to go in. And we'll put everything else away. Camera's off, we don't want to burn up the battery. Won't work too good with the dead battery. Alright, everything's in there that needs to be there. Multimeter, go away. Come back tomorrow when we need more stuff. Diagnose. Ooh, no wonder it won't shut. We've got wires hanging out. And guess what? I guess we better put it away too. We had it out today. Much better. Okay. We're almost there, people. We're winding it down. Getting to the goal, the finish line. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get that motherboard installed tomorrow in the computer. Even though we're on the crappy webcam, here's that app that I use. It's an app made by, I believe, the same company that makes my recorder mixer USB audio interface. It's like a multifunction 3-in-1 device. It's the heart of what runs my sound out to go with the cameras, because it would sound horrible, 1, and 2, every time I would switch from one camera to the next without the super multifunction Mix Pre 6. Every time I switched to this camera, you'd be hearing its mic. This camera, you would hear it. And this camera would be zoomed in a little closer, which is the same one, but you'd still hear the same sound. And this would have its own sound. Again, there, these two would share the same sound. And this, which isn't hooked up, would have its own sound if it was the camera I used today. So yeah, needless to say, this little device here, which I still want to do a review of sometime to share with other people how it can be useful for you if you want to create any type of content. We've got to get that out there some way, somehow. We'll find the time. We will do it, just not tomorrow. Alright people, thank you for watching, hanging out. Again, if you did, I appreciate it. Leave a like. Think about subscribing. You know, if you loved it or you want to learn more about this stuff, have questions, want to hang out in the chat, bring some friends. We will fix some stuff. We'll answer some questions. I am doing a giveaway sometime, but we got to get the subscriber count up. In order to do that, I will release further details later on. But if I didn't say it was a giveaway, I guess I just did. A giveaway of what? Yeah, I don't know yet. But it's going to be cool. Believe that. Believe that. Okay, we got the power cord for the camera. All we need is the recorder, and in order to get that, we've got to shut this. We've got to shut this down. So, have a good evening. Thank you once again for watching, hanging out, and I will see you again tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Wednesday? We'll find something fun to do for tomorrow. Oh yeah, we're doing that build, and also maybe the reload and initial setup of this computer. It's a gamer for a friend's brother, I believe. Yeah, a friend of mine's brother wants this computer slash low to mid-range. It's not like mid-range, it's like low to here, the mid-range gaming computer. Not bad, not shabby. We'll deal with that later. First and foremost, our computer that's got to go out in his computer. So have a good evening, and I will see everyone tomorrow. Let's close it up.